Okay, well, let's do this, I guess. I'll just wait for people to roll in a little bit. While I'm waiting, I'll tweet that I'm on here. So, let's see. Yeah, as I'm waiting for you guys, if you come in, go ahead and make a comment. Let me know that you're here. That's great. Let's see. I need share button or something. There we go. Okay. There we go. Let's see. What are my topics today? What was the other one? I was getting Lightbringer. We want to talk about Lightbringer today. Disney Plus. What was the other one that I listed? It's in the title. I should just go look at the title. Um. Oh, studio tour. Yeah, we can do studio tour. Okay. Okay. Tweeted. Alright, let's see what we've got going on. Hey, Seth. Welcome, Seth. Glad to have you. Studio tour. Well, yeah, I think I want to do that. I think I promised you guys that last time, but I want to give people a few minutes to roll in. Aditya, Starcraft. We can do that. I love Starcraft. I play it nearly every day anyway, so yeah, I'm happy to do that. By the way, so I've got a noise gate on with the microphone right now so that you don't have to listen to the air conditioning running this whole time, but if it's distracting while I'm talking, let me know, and I can shut off the AC and sweat for your comfort. Just let me know. By the way, Aditya, I don't think that I've seen you on here before. You're new to the stream, maybe? Welcome, regardless. Is this your first time on the stream? I am curious to know. By the way, so that you guys know, I had a conversation with Kyle today. He and I had to carpool to and from work today, so we talked about a lot of stuff because it's a long commute for us. And we brought up Kyle's Cosmere quest. And so if you're not aware, he has been doing these. The idea was he's going to read through the entire Cosmere and do. The original idea was weekly videos updating everybody on where he's at. And then he kind of fell off the map with that in the middle of Elantris, the first one that he's doing. Anyway, he has expressed that he does want to get back into the Kyle's Cosmere quest. He wants to do that. It's just that he lacks. He's been lacking the motivation for a while. So what I told him, and I'll just relay this to you guys, is kind of had this idea of like he'd update everybody, after every 6 or 12 chapters or something like that, and let you know what's going on with his Cosmere read through. But I kind of told him, like, look, I get it. Sometimes you're just not motivated to do something, and sometimes, it's intimidating to say, I want to do, 8 more episodes on Elantris. Like, that just sounds like a lot. And so I said, just don't worry about any strategy around that sort of thing. Just bomb through Elantris, finish it. I think you'll like it. You like the ending a lot. And then let's make a video at that point. And so I'm hoping that will kind of help him get back on track so that we can bring you that stuff. Seth, I do think it'd be great to get Kyle's thoughts on Sanderson for a lot of reasons. Just 'cause he and I are pretty simpatico on a lot of things. Not everything, but that's kind of where I would want to see what the differences are there. He and I both like the Wheel of Time. He likes it more than I do, but we both like it quite a lot. And so I know he has a lot of respect for Sanderson from that, but I'm interested to see if that will carry over. Anyway, let's see. Baker MacGyver popping in to say, hey, speaking of Cosmere, just started listening to the podcast this week after I finished The Way of Kings. Good. Yeah, okay, so before you go, Baker, I'm glad that you said this. You're confused about the Cosmere. So that's kind of why we did the podcast the way we did. So as you're going through Words of Radiance, and hopefully you picked up on this with Way of Kings, but you don't have to wait till you're done with Words of Radiance to start listening. Just wait till you're done with sections 1 and 2, or parts 1 and 2, and then you can listen to the first Words of Radiance episode, then parts 3 and 4, and then you can listen to episode 2, and then part 5 will be kind of wrapping up the whole book with that episode, and then the same thing with Oathbringer. And Seth is right. It's easy to make good episodes when the books are so good, but I will say that I do think that our Oathbringer episodes are some of our strongest. So I'm excited for you to get there, especially if you're new to the podcast. Oathbringer Part 5 was supposed to be the last Oathbringer. We ended up doing 4 episodes on that, I think, maybe 5, including the spoiler-free one. But the one about Part 5 was, first of all, Part 5 of Oathbringer is remarkable, but I think our episode on that is really quite good as well. So I'm excited for you to get there. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, you know what I'm excited for is also for Kyle to get there. That's where I think he's really going to enjoy his time with the Cosmeres, when he gets to something that's a little bigger and deeper and all that stuff. In fact, what I'm going to do is let's see. How do I say that? Is it Sharang? I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. I've seen it come up a few times, but I'd love for you to help me learn how to pronounce that one. Yeah, so Baker, I hope you can stick around for as much of the live stream as you can, but or as you'd like to. But if you're only popping in to say hi, then hey, and we'll see you. Whenever you can come in. Sharang, that's great. Sharang's question was, hey, just joined the live stream, heard talk of Elantris, only Sanderson I haven't read yet. Will it be jarring to go back in? Great question. It won't be. It'll be very familiar. I think it will be apparent that it's his first book, but a lot of people say, it's his first book, it's not very good. I disagree. I think it's really good. I think it's just very different from his other books, because a lot of times what you have is I'm going to try very hard not to spoil anything just in case anybody's watching who hasn't read them, but when you have something like Mistborn, you have Vin kind of going on this journey and Ellen going on a journey of character development through these crazy situations that they're put in, and then obviously the same thing with Stormlight Archive. These characters go through experiences and grow and change and whatnot. Elantris, being a standalone book, is very different from those in that the characters, he's not trying to develop most of the characters. One of them, Rathan, so there's 3 main characters. One of them goes through a lot of change himself, but the other 2 main characters are really well established up front, like who they are, what their attitudes are, and that sort of thing. And then these well-established characters are put into crazy situations, and that's what's interesting about the book. And I think that's what throws a lot of people off, is that it's not as much a character-driven story as it is an event-driven story. And because of that, because it's an event-driven story that's not as action-heavy as some of his other books, I think it throws some people off. But he has a lot of what I think is really interesting philosophical questions that he throws into that one. So I think Elantris is really, really good. You just have to understand it's unlike anything else that he's written. Maybe some of his shorter stuff, like The Emperor's Soul, would be similar in that way, but if you know that going into it, just kind of being prepared that it's not quite the same as other Sanderson stuff, then I think you'll be fine. Let's see. Hello, Cosmere Podcast. Let's see. Seth, I read Elantris last out of all the Cosmere books. I don't think it's his best, but it's still really solid. Exactly. Yeah, it is really, really, really good. The thing about it is, like, leaving aside, was it season 8 of Game of Thrones that was the last one? Or 7? I can't remember. Whatever, the penultimate season, which I think was season 7, was not as bad as the as the absolute shit show that we got out of the last season. But that penultimate season, I remember complaining about it a lot, like, oh, this doesn't make any sense, and I don't like this aspect and this aspect. But then when I stopped and thought about it, I was like, no, this is still better than 99% of television out there. This is amazing. It's just we got used to a certain quality. And I think that's probably the case with Elantris as well. Elantris is really good. It's better than most fantasy out there, the vast majority of fantasy books out there. But because Sanderson's other stuff is even better, we think of Elantris as kind of a worse book than it actually is. Let's see. So, let's see. Yeah, season 8 was the last. Thank you. So, Sharon's almost done with Path of Daggers. That's number 8? Yeah, number 8 in Wheel of Time. Great idea. I'm the more I think about and remember my Wheel of Time experience or experiences. Is this a reread or an original read or a first read? I'm not sure for you, but I'm advocating to a lot of people who start it that they take breaks. Read 3 books, find something else. Read 2 or 3 more books and then find something else. Kind of you've gotta take a little break from the Wheel of Time. Or else, by the time you get to, the book 9 and 10 area, it can wear on you after a while. For some people, that's not a problem, and they just power right through. For some, it is a problem. Let's see. What was I gonna do earlier? Well, I was going to pull up something. I was going to Google something with you guys. And now I don't remember what it was. What were we talking about before all this? Probably nothing. Oh, well. What do you think? Should we do a studio tour? I know we've lost a few people. We've only got 6 people watching now. But still, I promised you guys a studio tour. And darn it, you guys should get a studio tour. So before I start, let me know if you guys have any questions, and then just know that I'm going to be kind of like walking around with the webcam, so it's not going to be awesome, but we'll see what we can do. No, I will not be showcasing my favorite clips from The Lion King. I do want to talk about Disney Plus, probably, but I will get there in just a moment, so... yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions about the studio, and we'll have a look. So, what do I want to do first? I'm trying to think where we want to go with this. Let's just have a spider status. Okay, yeah, we can get there. That's a great question. Okay, how best to do this? So, I'm gonna pick this up and see if I can do this without unplugging the microphone or the camera. All right. Ooh, that's a lot of cord. Okay, so let's have a look at this studio. And here, I'll just stand here and kind of go around. So, got the front door. I'll kind of show you guys the artwork that we have here. A lot of tripods, a lot of, just kind of construction stuff sitting around. It's got windows up. Oh, that's a bright light. Windows up top. We've got the Mistborn artwork. This is my Legend of Zelda cross-stitch from A Link to the Past, which I am doing a companion piece for right now. It's on another surface here, so I'm still working on that. Over here, this Legion poster is the poster that was sitting up on the easel at the signing for that book. So that's the Many Lives of Stephen Leeds. So I went to that signing that Brandon did, the kickoff signing, and at the end of it, I was chatting with him, and he gave me that poster with a signature on it. You can see a signature kind of on the left side there. So I signed that for our studio. We've got, that's our main TV where we do like gaming and stuff in here. And then right over there, you'll see another TV. That's the one that I do a lot of my testing for my 9 to 5. I test a lot of streaming equipment and streaming services, hence the desire to talk about Disney Plus. But yeah, I do have 2 TVs in here. It's ridiculous, but that's the way it is. You'll see the artwork. There's my my artwork from Way of Kings and Words of Radiance. I haven't put Oathbringer up there yet. To be honest, I just don't like the Oathbringer artwork quite as much as the other 2. Call me crazy, but that's just me. So I haven't been quite as eager to get it on the wall. I do have Shallan right up there. That's what's the name of the guy? It's the same guy that does the artwork. Off the top of my head, for some reason, I can't remember his name. I could go look, but somebody type his name out. I can't quite remember. Anyway, if you look on these bookshelves, so we've just got a ton of books. There's even more books behind the couch there. But if you look here, let me see if I can do it this way. Let's see, right over here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bookshelves. I'm missing a few, but these are all the books that we've done on the podcast. And then the others are filled out with some other stuff, the Harry Potter and some other Tolkien stuff. Right over here, this bottom shelf, Michael Whelan, thank you, Cosmere Podcast, Michael Whelan. This bottom shelf right here is, there we go. Those books are my rare and signed. There's a lot of signed Sanderson on the main shelves, but that's where I keep the other kind of rare and signed ones. So all the leather-bound ones are on there. A lot of signed Terry Brooks. There's a German copy of The Lord of the Rings from the 70s that's pretty rare. I've got a first edition Starship Troopers up there. Oh, what else? Let me see. Oh yeah, signed Robin Hobb book, and I've got what's the other one? Is oh, that's right, one of my favorites. Maybe I should pull this down for you guys. I've got a bootleg copy from Ace Books, The Return of the King. There's some stories around when they bootlegged The Lord of the Rings back in the 60s. Okay, so yeah, next to that, yep, the Galadriel poster. Oh, let's get over my head. Okay. Then we've got the Galadriel poster. That is Jerry Vanderstelt, who kind of does those photorealistic paintings from different movies and stuff. And then Miranda Meeks does the Mistborn artwork. And let's see, I think that's just about it. So here is my setup. Ooh, there's some meta. Is that too meta? That's what I'm looking at right now, so I can see you guys. So interestingly enough, this is not what we podcast off of. It's what we used to, but now I just use it for my computer, so I can have a bunch of different inputs and outputs just from when I'm like editing on the computer. And then over here, this is the Stream Deck I use when I'm talking to you guys. And then, let's see if I pop all the way over. This is where the real magic happens for the podcast. So over here on the table, ooh, that's too close. I've got 4 mics clipped to the table, and all the headphones that go with them, couches, couple chairs so that we can all sit around and have a conversation. And then they all run via cable over here to our box. So each mic has those gray boxes right there, the 286S. That is what the mic runs through first, and it takes away it compresses our audio, takes away all the extraneous noise, and then on that bottom row, it all goes through that Focusrite, and that's what goes to the computer so that we can then edit it for you. So let's see. That is the studio. Oh, and the spider status was mentioned, so I guess I'll mention. I spent the spring going through this entire place. I put in baseboards that weren't there last year, and that's having trouble focusing. But I caulked all the baseboards, did the same with the windows. Okay, sorry, that must be really annoying to watch. Here. Okay. Whew. Yeah, that must be terrible to watch. Sorry about that. And then we did hire pest control, which we don't normally do, to come and spray the whole perimeter of the property. And so it's been awesome. Everything is sealed up. It's not quite like tight enough for sometimes little gnats come through the door or something like that. Or, I've seen a little spider or two. But we used to get wolf spiders in here, the ones that are like that big around. And, they used to come in the studio and just hang out. I had spider traps all over the place, and they would fill up every few weeks, and I'd have to replace them, and it was miserable, and I didn't want to be out here. But this summer has been way better, way better. That's the state of the studio is great, and that's why I enjoy coming out here for long periods of time and live streaming with you guys. If you didn't see it, I do have a baby monitor out here because this is a separate building. This is not attached to the house. And so I've got my kids in there. My wife's at a movie right now, so if my kids wake up and I hear them in the baby monitor, I'm going to pause the live stream for a little while and go take care of them, but they usually sleep pretty well. So, okay, so if you have any other questions about the studio, that's fine, but let's talk a little bit about Disney Plus. The reason I want to bring this up is partly because this is what I do for work, Monday through Fridays. I talk about streaming services and streaming devices and stuff. And so I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say for just for professional reasons. I mean, it's what I think about all the time. But even on a nerdy kind of legendarium level, I'm interested in whether you guys know about this thing that's coming up, if you know about The Mandalorian and all that stuff, how much you care, how excited you are. I'm just interested to get a gauge. So let me know in those in the live chat what you know about Disney Plus, or if you care about Disney Plus. But the reason I'm bringing it up is essentially because of The Mandalorian. They just announced yesterday that the entirety of the first season, I guess, of The Mandalorian is going to be available at launch on November 12th, and so I'm pretty excited for that. Honestly, I probably shouldn't be, because Disney has not engendered a great deal of trust from myself lately, but maybe everybody else is still interested in what they're doing with the movies. But I'm not interested in the movies, but I am interested to see if they can do something with a series of shows on The Mandalorian. I've always loved Boba Fett, obviously, because I am a man of about 30 years of age, give or take a few. So, Cosmere, I'm sure I'll get Disney Plus eventually because Disney owns all entertainment forever, but I'm bitter about it. So is it because it's Disney? That's what I'm curious about. And I get it, but I have this prediction. I think Netflix has 50 million subscribers in the US. And my prediction is that Disney Plus will have 50 million subscribers before it's been launched for 4 months. I think it will catch Netflix like that. Let's see. Was it? Oh, a little red book. I don't know what you said, but you can throw it back on there. I'm sure it's fine. Well, it's not okay. Sorry, Sharing. It's not a Boba Fett TV show. It's it's called The Mandalorian. It's not about Boba Fett, but it's about another Mandalorian, played by. You know what? Let's go ahead and look it up. For some reason, I just can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head. Pedro Pascal. So, Pedro Pascal will be playing the Mandalorian. They got Carl Weathers, which is awesome. Carl Weathers is maybe the coolest guy alive right now. And then they've also got... Oh, you know what? Let's just pull up the cast list, because it's pretty incredible who they were able to get for this. Oh, come on. We know they've got more than that. Yeah, Werner Herzog is part of the Mandalorian. So, some pretty exciting stuff. If you watched Breaking Bad, you'll remember Giancarlo Esposito. I recognize this guy from a few different things, but I wouldn't have known his name. Taika Waititi, obviously, people who like Guardians of the Galaxy will be excited about that one. Carl Weathers has made a career for the last 20 years out of being Carl Weathers. That's pretty accurate, I'd say, and more power to him as far as I'm concerned. You could say that about a lot of people, I suppose, including most of those kind of 80s action stars. Aditya, I'm not a Star Wars fan, neither MCU or Disney in general. Guess not. HBO Max is the one I'm looking forward to. Me too. It'll be a little higher price point. I think they're eyeing about $16 or $17 a month for that one. So it won't be as accessible. And I think HBO Max will do really well, but it won't jump out of the gate like Disney Plus will. They'll get plenty of subscribers and they'll be successful with that one. By the way, did you hear? This is my favorite. I'm sorry, this is off topic. This is not very legendary in me. But AT&T owns HBO. So they're launching HBO Max, and that's going to have a bunch of stuff on it. But they're also launching another streaming service. DirecTV Now is going away, and it's becoming AT&T TV Now, which is the worst name I've ever heard. Okay. Little Red Book, live action remakes have been awful, and the new Star Wars are yes. Although I'd put Rogue One in there as well. Lack of competition in the IP world. Yeah, AT&T TV Now is crazy, Zach. So, yeah, AT&T sucks at naming stuff. They just suck at it. But that's a topic for another day, I suppose. I could tell you guys which other channel I live stream on, but if you really care, I guess you can email me or something. I don't know. It's not very relevant to the Legendarium. So, do we... let's see, we've done a studio tour. Oh, you know what? Maybe I should talk about Lightbringer. I was going to do some Starcraft. Maybe I'll pull up Starcraft. And we can talk about Lightbringer a little bit while we pull that up. Let me get logged in here. By raise of hands, I guess, in the live chat, how many people have read Lightbringer? Let me know. Because I'm only halfway through the first book, and so I don't want anybody to spoil anything. But I'm curious what everybody's experience is with Lightbringer. Let's see. Got curious, found YouTube TV versus Hulu TV. That was one of my favorite ones. You can look that up if you just Google or do a YouTube search of YouTube TV versus Hulu TV. There's a video in which I argue with myself. And it was this idea I had because sometimes my bosses get really nervous when I come down really hard on some service or some company, and so they're always trying to say like, oh, don't say anything too negative. Everything's right for somebody, and they have a point. I shouldn't be too negative about things, but a lot of times I have complaints. And so the way that I got around it was by doing a video in which I argued with myself. And so one guy represented YouTube TV and the other one did Hulu Live, and they would rag on the other one, but the other one was there to defend it. And so that was kind of the way that I got around it. It was a lot of fun. And it was, the only way that I could get them to let me say terrible things about these companies. So, let's see. Hey, Daniel, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for popping in. let's see, if you guys don't know Daniel Green, if you're not subscribed to his channel, then you're foolish. You should go subscribe to his channel. So welcome, Daniel. Thanks for popping in. Seth, you're reading the first Lightbringer right now. That is good to hear. Are you reading it because we are, or is it just coincidence that you're also reading Lightbringer at the same time as we are? Let's see. Haven't read any weeks yet. Cosmere podcast. So we started with Night Angel. We did 6 episodes on Night Angel, and I gotta say, not my favorite. There were things about it that I liked, and it's not. I didn't hate Night Angel by any stretch of the imagination. I didn't even necessarily dislike it. I just felt like, that was an interesting effort, and so I didn't. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say. Well, no, I could say this. Night Angel is a very odd combination of grimdark in the extreme, in that the sex and violence is really upfront, very heavy, sometimes difficult to read, but it's done in a sort of YA style. It's about young people. The kind of the language that's used is often seems to be geared toward young people, and so I found it very odd to have this combination of like really levels of sex and violence that I think a lot of adults would have trouble with, and then it's kind of written for young adults. I thought that was very, very odd and kind of awkward, but it definitely, I could tell as we were reading it, I could tell why people liked it as much as they did, or as much as they do. It just wasn't, something about it wasn't quite to my taste. And so, does that make sense? Like, it wasn't quite to my taste, but if somebody says, I love Night Angel, then I'm not going to be like, well, then you're dumb. Because it's not dumb. It's perfectly good series. But Lightbringer, I'm halfway through the first Lightbringer book, and it is just leagues ahead of Night Angel. There's already been one really cool twist, and so if you've already read it and you spoil it for anybody else, so help me, I will ban your ass so fast. It's such a great little twist, and I don't know where that twist is going to end up, and so even right there, it's really, really intriguing. But anyway, so I'm curious if you guys can speak in generalities in the chat here. I'm curious what your favorite things are about about Lightbringer, just the way that you describe it to other people as you're pitching it. This is the story of what, how do you pitch this thing? Let me know. Josh, so help me. Let's see if my library has a copy. Yes, definitely see if your library has a copy. I'll bet they do. They're very popular. Let's see, Little Red Book, Night Angel, super dark, and I enjoyed it in a cringy way. Lightbringer is also super honest and dark, but much better crafted. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, even, like I said, just halfway through the first book. So there's the color-based magic system is really cool, and it might be tempting to be worried that it would be too similar to Warbreaker. It's not. They are both based on color, but that doesn't mean much because their implementation is so different. When Brent was at JordanCon this year, he was doing a panel and somebody was asking him about those similarities, and he talked about how he had written, or he had come up with the outline or something. I can't remember if he had already written the book, but somebody said, hey, once he was done with that, you should go check out this Warbreaker book that Sanderson just published. And they told him what the premise was, and he goes, oh, shit. Stepped all over my toes. And so he said that he's refused to read it until he's had a chance to kind of finish Lightbringer. And so I wonder if he's read it by now, because he's done with the 5th book, and he's going to be going on his kind of media tour pretty soon with that one. So I wonder where he's at with reading Lightbringer. Daniel, let's see. The Blackguard becomes my favorite aspect of Lightbringer, but that's later in the series. Okay. And there's been some talk of like the mirror guards. Are those different things, or is that just the uniform they wear? I'm not sure. It's great to watch a cohesive unit with well-realized relationships develop over the books. Simply awesome. Much like the X-Wing series, if you remember those from the 90s. Let's see. Love the characters. Will Kyle be trying Lightbringer, or did Night Angel completely break him? So Kyle was broken by Farseer. I think if he hadn't read Farseer, he would have finished Night Angel with us, but he really didn't like Farseer. I had my issues with the first book, especially, of Farseer, but I grew to appreciate it for what it was by the end, even if it's not quite to my taste. But Kyle hated those books, and so that's what broke him. And yeah, so is he reading Lightbringer with us? He will not be reading Lightbringer with us. I think he wants to concentrate on his Cosmere read-through. So yeah, we'll see who joins us on those. It could be a lot of just me and Ryan. We'll see. I'm not sure yet. But if that's the case, I'm all for it. I really like doing episodes with Ryan. I think he and I have a lot of really good chemistry. And so I won't be sad if it's just me and him. And I'm sure most people won't either. But I think we might be joined every once in a while by Todd, Ken, or Stephanie. So we'll see which of them wants to keep up with us. Josh says, Kip is probably my favorite. Weeks nailing the fat kid protagonist. I love this. Kip and what's the name of the girl from his hometown? She, in where I'm at, she was just this isn't a spoiler, she was just assigned to tutor him. Like, that just happened. I can't remember her name now off the top of my head because I just got to her. But anyway, I like them both for the idea of having a main character, or a main character in Kip, and maybe she's a side character, I'm not quite sure yet, but who are thoroughly relatable and normal. There's some indication that Kip will be this, what do they call him, like the ultra polychrome. He can do stuff with every color, the equivalent of a Mistborn, right, versus a Misting. So there's some indication of that, but we haven't really seen that bear out quite yet. So I guess we'll see. Additional supply depots required. I don't know. But I love that they're so relatable. So Kip, as the fat kid, as you say, is extremely relatable, and that's much appreciated. And so is she as well. Liv something? Yeah, Liv. Thank you, Daniel. You said it. I remembered before you said it. So let's see. Josh, you love Squadron TD? Me too. Right now, it's just something for you guys to look at while we chat, I guess, right? So if you like tower defense games, well, if you don't, just look at that little corner of the screen, I guess. Josh, when are you starting Lightbringer so I can read along? Great question, because we still have to get to The Hobbit, or finish The Hobbit. So we've done 2 or 3 Hobbit episodes. So here's the plan with Lightbringer, and I think this is important, especially for you guys who are, some of our most engaged listeners. I can tell because you're here on the live chat. But make sure you're on Reddit as well. Turn on notifications, whatever you got to do, because with Lightbringer, we aren't going to be able to do the same kind of like pre-episode thread right before we record, and you guys can react to the previous episode while we get to the new ones. It's not going to quite work that way, because we're going to try to move really quickly through these books and kind of podcast together as we go as quickly as possible, and we'll be building up a backlog of episodes to release later. The reason we're trying to do that is because when book 5 comes out, we're hoping that, like we did with Sanderson, we can get some advanced review copies of The Blinding White. Is that what it's called? And if we can get some advanced review copies of that, then we can have a non-spoiler, spoiler-free episode ready to go on day 1 when it's released. So when you guys read it, you can immediately jump in. or maybe before you read it, if you want to hear what we have to say about it, you can immediately have an episode to listen to. But we're not going to be able to do that if I haven't read through the first 4 books like Ryan already has. And so we're going to be going through those pretty quickly. Hey, Daniel, thanks for joining us. I don't know if you're already gone, but yeah, it's awesome to see you here too. So like I said, everybody, if you don't know Daniel, he's a good friend of the podcast. I hope you go check out his channel as well. Cosmere Podcast asking for a friend. How does one get an author to give out arcs? So 2 things you can do. Develop a relationship with the author or their team. That's what we've done with Sanderson. So they know of us, at least. We're familiar to them, and so it's kind of easier for them to say, oh yeah, no, we should get them an arc, because they know what we do. And the other way is to simply email the publicity department at whatever their publishing house is. So in the case of Sanderson, he's with Tor, and so we have a contact at Tor. And if we are interested in reviewing a book, a lot of times they'll push stuff. Will you please review this, right? And most of the time we say no. But if we really want to review something, we'll email them. Sometimes they say yes and send us that review copy, and sometimes they say no. Or just don't respond at all. That's pretty common as well. Anyway, either way, those are generally the 2 ways that you're going to get to that. Let's see. Seth, got your podcast shirt today. Stoked. I would love to see that. Throw it on Reddit, Discord, whatever. I'd love to see how they look. I have not ordered samples of those shirts for myself yet. And so I'm really interested to see how they are, or to hear how they are. So let me know how the quality is, how the printing is. I hope it's good. But that site was recommended to me by somebody who said that stuff was good. So I kind of have to hope that it is. Let me know. Let's see, one more here. So that might actually work. I'll have to give that a shot once the next Cosmere thing is due. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, especially with a podcast name like the Cosmere, Cosmere Spoilers? Yeah, they probably know at least of you. And so there's a good chance. Okay, now I should probably concentrate for just a sec. What am I needing? I need... Okay, let's do these. Okay. Just need to hope the Tor doesn't bother checking our download stats. There is almost no chance that they will. I don't know, but there are other indicators, and so if you want to build up your presence, it's not like they're gonna say, give us a download of your podcast stats, give us a screenshot or whatever. Maybe they would, but they can look you up on iTunes and say, oh, they've got 1 review. That's an indication. Do you have 50 reviews or 100 reviews or whatever? Those are indications. Twitter followers is a thing. We don't have that many. We're coming up on 900, I think, but not that many. Facebook followers, obviously, your general social channels and their health is an indication. So there are other things that you can do to convince them that you're a player in the genre. So good luck. I hope that you get one. You only have 1 review. You know what? So did we at one point. So speaking of which, if any of you watching have not reviewed us on iTunes, I would much appreciate it. I think I mentioned this a stream or 2 ago, but it's been interesting and frustrating that we've gotten a lot of kind of great 5-star reviews, but a lot of the ones that actually get starred and reviewed are not very kind. It's like if they bother to review us, they want to crap all over us. And the way that we get negatively reviewed is confusing to me. It's confusing, the reasons that people give for giving us like a 2-star review. Let's see. We're not what? Cosmere Podcast? I'm not sure. Let's see. I need to beg for one this round. Reading at top speed so I can move on to modding Reddit was a challenge. Oh, yeah. Ooh, I bet that would be a challenge. Are you on... Oh, yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. If we get done with ours quickly enough, maybe we could help you out. So are you modding on the week... Are you modding on the week's subreddits, or is that a Sanderson thing? I have heard, I can't remember where I've mentioned this, but I did hear from another friend of the podcast that the new Skyward book, I think it's called Starsight, is among the best that Brandon has ever produced, regardless of genre. Which I thought was, or not genre, regardless of series. Like, it's not just his best Cosmere, it's not just his best YA. They said it's one of the best he's ever produced. That's one of his Gamma readers who told me that. Do people review individual episodes or just the podcast? Yeah, Jafu, I know who you are. Do people review individual episodes or just the podcast in general? Hang on. Oh, wait. I need to get to... Oh, Cosmere Podcast. Oh, come on. Give yourself a little credit. I'm an Android user who uses CastBox. Can't review a podcast in general. Does an iTunes review still help? Yes, that is the number one place. Anywhere you listen, Google Play or Stitcher, or whatever the case may be, those are all good places to review us, but iTunes is the best one. It is still by far the dominant podcast app out there, and so, or whatever it's called now. It's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple Podcasts, I think. But whatever it's called, yes, that is still the best place to go by far. And so if you have an iTunes account and you are able to help us out with a review, if you enjoy the show, that is very much appreciated. The way that it works is that, it's not that complicated. There's an algorithm that looks at how many people are downloading the show and how many people are reviewing it and whatnot, and it'll get bumped up in the rankings. And so if we get a lot of good reviews, it's much more likely that the show will be shown on the the front page. Maybe probably not the new and noteworthy these days, but if we can crack that top 100, which we've done a lot of times in the past, then it shows up when people search through the podcasts available and helps us get a lot more listeners. So it is very much appreciated. So Josh asked, do people review individual episodes or just the podcast in general? This is what's kind of frustrating, is that people are reviewing it after one episode without understanding the show or without giving us a chance to go through even one series. So one guy was super pissed. You can find it. It's a few months ago when we were doing Farseer, where we were doing the Farseer episodes, and we started out not liking them very much. In some cases, not at all. And we kind of evolved and started to understand what she was doing with the books as we went. And so our views started to moderate and soften. And like I said, we kind of understood a little bit better what she was doing. And so that was great. But I got on Twitter at some point and recommended to somebody who I saw on Twitter liked Farseer. I said, hey, you might be interested in checking this out. If you like Farseer, we just kind of went through those books. And they were pissed. So they get on and they're like, how dare you recommend this to us when you just got on and crapped all over the books. And I was like, well, I guess, if you're only going to listen to one thing, then whatever. So there's a lot of examples like that. And you know what? There's part of it, one thing that I do understand is that I get that I am going to rub some people the wrong way. And that's just going to be the case with everybody. I have a lot of opinions and something of a strong personality, and that helps if you want to, for instance, sit here and live stream on YouTube for hours and and whatnot. It helps to have a lot of opinions, a lot of things to say, but not everybody is going to like what you have to say. And so I get a lot of pushback in reviews. And people email me all the time and tell me what an awful person they think I am. I get a lot of that stuff. So, Josh, people have different tastes. Yeah, that's true. But if you'll notice, take a look around you, and this whole thing about toxic fandom, which I think is a conversation that sometimes goes too far, but there is a grain of truth in there that the idea of toxic fandom is, no, I like this thing, and therefore you're not allowed to dislike it. There is a lot of that out there. So, found an entertaining 1-star review for the Legendarium. Chill, less Craig and more Todd, please. Yeah, I remember that one. And that's the thing is, like, Todd, for me, Todd has been really kind of an acquired taste. I really like Todd's style now, but it took me a while before I could say that I was really, really into it. But for some people, like, that's exactly what they're looking for in a podcast host. And I am not. And so, like, I think the blue and the red teams now have some pretty different flavors because of that, which I like quite a lot. But I can understand why some people would really like Todd and not like me. Let's see, Todd brings old man energy. Ain't that the truth? Oh, I guess I won. Cool. Let's see. Some people act like gatekeepers. You have to prove you're worthy. Well, thanks, Seth. Thanks for being Team Craig. Yeah, Todd is good. Yeah, he just has a very different vibe than I do, which, like I say, nowadays I really, really appreciate. Fantasy more than sci-fi, me too, generally. Although there are some really good sci-fi books out there that I like. Love the Farseer series. Started it because of you after ditching Robin Hobb's series about the forest priests. You're wrong, but still love you. Todd is amazeballs. Yeah, Todd is great. Well, I'm good. I'm actually, that, I gotta say, that warms my cold little heart to hear that you picked it up because of us and didn't agree with us, but still listened and formed your own opinion. I love that. So I'm glad you shared that. Yeah, gatekeeping is a stupid thing if you think about it, pushing people away from things you like, keeping them niche. It is a stupid thing, I agree, but it's the most human thing ever, so you'll never get away from it. It's been very interesting in my lifetime since, I guess, it probably started, in fact, I think I mentioned this in another video or something. I think it started with The Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Those both came out in 2001. I think Harry Potter came out in like November or maybe a little earlier than that, and then Lord of the Rings came out in December, and it was this like 1-2 punch of nerdliness, and it took the world by storm. I'm talking about the movies, of course. You know, the books had been out for a little while, but the movies were these worldwide phenomenons, and it ushered in this new era of nerd stuff being cool. And so it used to be that a nerd was somebody who played Dungeons and Dragons and argued about, the original Star Wars trilogy and the expanded universe books and all the comics and, that Star Trek geek. That was what was a nerd. And then so that was like a really insular community, and all the popular people were kind of looking in on that and looking down on it. And then when this explosion happened in 2001, I think we got X-Men in 2000 maybe. Anyway, around that time, nerd stuff became cool. And now suddenly everybody wants to watch The Lord of the Rings and talk about Harry Potter and dissect it. And Dungeons and Dragons has its own kind of like fun, popular cachet now with things like... what's that show that they do? Oh, with Matt Mercer. Somebody tell me what that show is called. I can't remember it. But point is, things like The Talking Dead, where it's an hour-long show about the show you just watched that's supposed to be for nerds. And so, sorry, I'm taking a long time to get to my point, but the point is, the mass culture kind of took a look at nerd stuff and said, yeah, nerd stuff is great, and this is fun and everybody likes it now, and so the nerd community kind of shrinks in on itself and says, oh, you like the Lord of the Rings? Well, we like the Silmarillion. And that's the measure of how cool you are. And you could extend that to any genre where kind of the mass culture penetrated what was previously nerd culture. They retreat to kind of, higher ground and put up their defenses because we want that community. I mean, Seth, you were just saying, I'm grateful the podcast allowed me to discover a community where people read what I do. And that's what we all want, is we all want a community that makes us feel welcome and that, other people like the things that we like. We want to feel like that community isn't everybody in the whole world, because then you're just one more face in the crowd, right? And so you're lost again. But if it's kind of a smaller community, then we feel better about that. And so that's what gatekeeping is, and that's what it does, is it allows us to push so much, maybe the Legendarium is a good example of this, where a lot of people out there, millions of people out there, read the books that we do and talk about the movies that we do, and a lot of them probably do it largely in the way that we do, but finding the Legendarium, or in my case, providing the Legendarium, gives us this kind of smaller community within a larger one without having to actively exclude anybody. That's the last thing that I would ever want to do with our little community. So, Critical Role, thank you, everybody. Let's see. Oh, I wish I could read that. Hang on, I've got to minimize this for just a second while I go read that. Farseer Trilogy, The Perfect Age. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Haven't watched Critical Role, like the Glass Cannon. Critical Role, it's not a show that I seek out, but it's cool. I can see why people like it a lot. Let's see, Cosmere Podcast. Barring outside influence, author shelf, fundraising goal, what Discworld book would you guess is the next one to be on the show in like 3 years? I don't think it'll take 3 years. I'd like to get Brandon back on to do one because he's so passionate about them, and because, even aside from the fact that it's Brandon Sanderson, he was a really good guest. He's a really great panelist, and was an awesome person to talk about that book with. So I'd like to bring him back on because he mentioned Guards, and is there one about the post office? I can't remember. Going Postal? Is that what it's called? And so when we were leaving the interview, or when he was leaving the interview, because he had to run after that, or it's not an interview, it's a panel discussion, I guess. But he specifically mentioned those two and said, if you would like to have me back on, I'd like to do those books, one of those books. And so, yeah, Going Postal. And so that would be my hope, is that we can do one of those next. I guess we'll see. But yeah, I don't think it's going to take us another, what did you say? 3 years? Yeah, it's not gonna take us 3 years. Yeah, I've heard that Going Postal is amazing. I've heard the same thing about just about every Discworld book out there, and after reading just one, I'm like, I want to read more of this guy. I literally have not had time yet to read more of him, but I have every intention of doing so. Going Postal was on Netflix. I didn't know that. Okay. So I'm gathering that a lot of his books get adaptations, BBC or whoever, but that they are of varying degrees of quality. So hopefully that one's good. It's an older show. Well, Going Postal was written in was it the early 90s or the late 80s or something? So if that's the case, then calling that an older show is offensive to people of my generation. Just 3 live actions? So that'd be Going Postal, what's the Hogfather, and What else? Let's see, Marines. Color of Magic. Okay. Hogfather, are you saying, Cosmere, that Hogfather, the adaptation is amazing or the book is amazing? Okay. Yeah, how long? When was Color of Magic even published? I'm not even sure. So let's see. So I'm curious if you guys have anything that you are naturally inclined toward gatekeeping about. I wonder if I do now that I'm thinking about it. Because like I said, it's a really natural human tendency, and so I don't think it's anything that would be like shaming or embarrassing or something to have a tendency toward gatekeeping this or that thing. It just means it's something that you love. Let's see, Color of Magic, it's the first book, yeah, and I've heard that that it is really funny and it's very lampoony, but that it took him a little while to get his sea legs, and so we'll see if that's true when I get to it, and I do intend to get to it. Oh. Well, maybe we'll finish this round and then wrap up the live stream. Sometimes these can go for 5 minutes, and sometimes they can go for 20. So, see how this one does. Let's see, Cosmere, I'm 100% certain I have, and probably still do in some ways, but trying to change. So what have you in the past? For me, I was not always the nicest about most fantasy in general, but Tolkien stuff. Like, when I was a teenager and I was really getting into Tolkien, I was not very nice about, like, oh, you don't like, the 200 pages before you get out of the Shire? You suck at reading. You're terrible. And now I'm like, it makes sense that that's not going to be to everyone's taste. So sometimes it just takes a little growing up and a little experience yourself. So let's see. Oh, more supply depots, of course. Well, let's see. Things I love, reading, things I gatekeep, probably something, not sure. What, author growth? Oh yeah, author growth, yeah, for sure. With Discworld. Oh man, this drives me crazy. You don't know about this, or it's becoming even more prevalent now, or more difficult now to get around that or to avoid that, because there's a lot of. I mean, we're gonna see it with Disney Plus. If you think the streaming content is numerous now, just wait until Disney Plus and HBO Max and all the rest of it comes out. But it's just there's even a lot of it like, you haven't seen Game of Thrones, how dare you? But it's like, no, Game of Thrones is like 8 million people who have seen it, and probably just a few million people who are really passionate about it. And there's a lot of like, you haven't seen it, and that kind of thing drives me crazy. Like, we cannot consume all of the media out there, and so I don't much care for it when people get pissy about you not having seen their thing. Yeah, Cosmere, that's a great way to go about it. If you want some practice letting go of gatekeeping, become obsessed with a book series and then moderate an online community with a lot of casual readers saying great things. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, or just listen to us say incorrect things about it on our podcast. I'm sure that would do it as well.
Insufficient Vespine gas.
Let's see. What do we want to do here? I need to up my game. Come on. Ouch. Okay. It's probably Watt with regards to gatekeeping. Definitely super easy going about it now, but it was one of my first big series. Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of people's experience with this sort of thing, with the gatekeeping thing. And Wheel of Time is such an intense community in a lot of ways that I think that's probably a common one for people to be gatekeepy about. Just started Watt. Thought about listening to the Watt Spoilers podcast. Don't care about spoilers. My thoughts are care about spoilers. At least a little. It is a good podcast. If they are your style, not everybody is everybody's style, or nobody is everybody's style, whatever, however you want to say that. But yeah, it's a good podcast. But I think with some things, like with Lightbringer that I'm going through right now, like if somebody spoiled the first twist that occurs in the first half of the first book, like somebody could spoil that and they'd say, oh, it's early on in the series, but it's such a great twist that I'd be like, I'd be kind of pissed if somebody spoiled it for somebody else. So let's see. Love What Spoilers. Feel like a lot of what they cover would just be confusing if you haven't read the whole series. Yeah, that would probably be accurate. Seth, violence. Come on, man. Let's see. They assume you know stuff about later books. Constantly talking about stuff you don't know isn't very fun. I was just talking with my brother yesterday. I went on, if you're on Discord, if you're not on Discord, you should be on our Discord server, but I was talking about this big hike that I did the other day with my brother, and he and I were talking about that. He listened to every one of our Watt episodes and hasn't read a single word of Wheel of Time, and I was like, why did you listen to those? And he just says, I like your show, so I just listen to them all. So that's a good brother right there, I suppose. Let's see. Yeah, let's just go for it. Let's see. Discord community is great for LP. Oh, Legendary Podcast. I don't know, what's LP? Seth, where, please don't give details, but where are you generally speaking? Are you anywhere near where you can make it to JordanCon? Because that's happening. Yeah, let me know geographically about where you're located. I'd be very interested to know. Come on, kill him. There we go. Go. Got tickets to JordanCon. Yes, that's awesome. I will see you there. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're from Tillamook, right? Around there somewhere. Opposite side of the country, coming anyway. Somebody's from Tillamook. I can't remember who it is. Which I visited. What was that? I don't know, like 8 years ago or something. My wife and I were doing a trip together down the coast. That was a nice area. Love the Oregon coast. Okay. Yep, Tillamook guy. That's great. Good cheese. So let's see. Yeah, I really want to encourage everybody to go to JordanCon. So it looks like 2 people, Josh and Seth, you're going to JordanCon. Is it first time for you guys? This year was my first time. And I was really, I don't know if you guys listened to that episode that we did on JordanCon after it was done, but my initial reaction was in the first hour when I showed up and we were like just a few minutes late for the opening session where everybody's packed into this giant room. And my initial reaction was like, what have I gotten myself into? I do not, I've read The Wheel of Time and I don't know what these people are going on about. I don't get it. And it didn't seem very welcoming right away to somebody who was new. But then it took like an hour after that, and I was like, I'm coming every year. So it took just a minute, but once I hit my stride there at JordanCon, it was like I can't imagine not going to JordanCon. So yeah, I'll be there for sure. Let's see, Josh, you won't be making it? No! Let's see, Cosmere. Seth, Little Red Book. I don't know what your situation is, but Little Red Book is in Portland. My first time reading A Song of Ice and Fire, I was focused on the ice zombies and didn't care about the dumb politics and didn't care for it. The second read was much better. I can imagine. Yeah, the ice zombies, I think that's why seasons 7 and 8 kind of sucked, and why he hasn't finished the books is because of the ice zombies. He can't finish it in the way that he started it, like concentrating on the things that he did. And so I think he kind of wrote himself into a weird place and can't get out. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I don't think we're ever going to get the rest of A Song of Ice and Fire. So, let's see. Here we go. Oh, they'll be fine. Okay. Oh, hey, victory. I didn't even notice. Apparently we really whipped him. Okay. Well, I guess that's my cue. Maybe we should start wrapping this up. Is there anything else that you guys want to discuss before I log off for tonight? And also, let me know what the best time is for me to do this. I can't guarantee that I'll be able to do it, but like if we wanted to do one earlier in the day, Saturdays and Sundays, like do you guys want me to do that, or is it better if it's like nighttime and nobody has anything going on? I'm not sure. Yeah, let me know what you want out of these streams. Let's see. What was my hot take on Song of Ice and Fire? Yeah, that might qualify as a hot take, but I feel like I have my reasons for thinking that way. Let's see. Other podcasts that might be more helpful to you. So other Watt podcasts, is it? Oh, hang on, let me minimize that so I can look at this. Yeah, Little Red Book, when it comes to Watt stuff, it is difficult because there are not many out there that are spoiler-free. We were generally spoiler-free. I know there was one that kind of we let slip, but it was in passing so much that you probably wouldn't ever notice it. That was like the only spoiler that we accidentally gave. But yeah, most of the ones out there are spoilerific, and so I think the White Tower podcast is spoilers, so that's not spoiler free. Sorry, I'm just catching up, you guys, on this this chat. Josh, no, I don't think A Song of Ice and Fire will happen, at least not from Martin. I think he will die before they are finished, and he will appoint, if he hasn't already, he should appoint a literary executor who can either finish the books or assign that out, similar to what Harriet did for Robert Jordan's books, similar to what Christopher Tolkien has done for his father after he died. No, I don't think that Martin is going to finish A Song of Ice and Fire. Let's see. Cosmere can consistently watch late at night. During the day, way more going on. Yeah, same. I mean, that's why I've generally done these pretty late. I just, I know that we miss out on a lot of our European listeners, the folks in Australia, New Zealand, of which there are more than just a few. It's bizarre, but at least I find it bizarre. But yeah, there's a lot of people out there who listen as well and who may want to join in on some of these. Let's see. Ever read N.K. Jemisin? No, not yet. Oh man, it's so high up on the list. It's if I weren't running the podcast, I would have read those already, just because everybody talks so highly about them, and I'm really excited to get to them. It's just being a weekly podcast instead of a daily one. It's hard for us to go quickly through stuff to the point where I can read a ton of other things. Everybody hates Rand. Yeah, that's another one. I think that one is also full of spoilers. Broken Earth. Yeah, so we want to get to those, but yeah, it's just kind of tough these days. Yeah, but N.K. Jemisin, 100% on our radar right now. Let's see. Is George Martin in poor health or just old? Yeah, he's old. He's also just, he's a big dude, and that comes with health problems, just kind of inherent in that, which is why I've been dieting lately. Let's see. He's got so much money at this point that he doesn't ever need to. Well, that's true, but I think I don't know if it's fair for us to give him that sort of motivation, not having heard that from him. I think it's probably more likely to be either creative blockage or simply a matter of shifting priorities, where other things have taken his interest more than finishing that series. Josh, you can't go daily. I would never stay caught up with you. We can go daily. No, we never could. The problem is that it's a bunch of volunteers. Like, if I were to become a full-time podcaster, that's one thing. I would need X amount of dollars to support that. And that is something that I'm looking into doing sometime in the future, is transitioning to a full-time podcaster, because I have a lot of other projects as well, and potential projects. But so that's one thing, is like, okay, I could be a daily podcaster, but the thing about the Legendarium is we've got Ryan and Todd and Ken and Stephanie and Kyle sometimes, and Stephanie sometimes, and I might be able to go daily, but they never would be able to do that. So the Legendarium will almost certainly never be more than weekly. And also, there's the Patreon thing to consider. I'm not sure how to navigate this at this point, but right now Patreon is per episode. And so you'll notice that on months with 5 Mondays, we skip a Monday because I don't want to overburden people on Patreon with a fifth patron donation that month. So, let's see. Are you planning Malazan? Oh, yeah, John said it. Oof, Malazan. Okay. Malazan, yes, we are planning on Malazan. Ryan has read the first book recently. Ryan reads more books than I do, and I'll get to that in just a moment. It's actually remarkable how much he gets through. I think he listens to audiobooks on like 2x constantly or something. I don't know how he does it, but so he's read the first Malazan. And he did a little Reddit post on that, so that was a few weeks ago if you want to go look that up. And according to him, everybody's description is accurate. Like, it's really good, but it's so difficult to wrap your mind around and all that stuff. And so, yeah, he, knowing that we are planning on it, he's read it, and so I would like us to do it, but it is a big commitment. And so, similar to the Wheel of Time, I would want to plan on, okay, once we're doing Malazan, like, we are doing Malazan, and we're going to finish that thing. So it's hard to find where that's going to fit in with the schedule. So, let's see. But yeah, we want to do it. I don't know if I have a better answer for you than that. Sorry. Josh, how fast do you read, if you don't mind me asking? I don't mind at all. I don't have a word count for you, but if I'm doing audiobooks, then it takes me 1.5 times as or whatever that, yeah, like I listen on 1.5 speed on most podcasts, but when I'm reading with my eyeballs, I am much faster, and so let's see. Hang on. Let's see. Okay. Shadow Rising is, holy smokes, 680 very, very thick pages with no margins and tiny type. And this would, just kind of reading at my normal pace, 2 weeks probably, if I'm taking it easy and giving it like a good chunk every night. So yeah, maybe 2 weeks to do that. I don't know, a week and a half. A book like Ender's Game, I read that in 2 sittings, so that's a 2-night kind of thing, but that's a much, much shorter book. When we did Oathbringer, that's a good indication. We got the advanced review copies, and that one took me a week and a half of hard reading. And I know some people like tore through it in a night, but I tend to read every word and process every word. And so if you're speed reading, I know that some people kind of like skim through that stuff. It's not something that I'm interested in doing for fiction. Sometimes I'll do that for like business books are the worst. They're the worst, but sometimes you feel like, oh, I got to read this because everybody else has read it, and so I got to know the conversation. So business books, it's just like, I'll skim through them and read them really quickly. But a fiction book, I really digest every word, so it takes me a while. Let's see. Too bad I can't just pay per Blue Team episode. Oh, Josh. Oh, that hurts. That hurts my brain and my heart. Let's see. If you guys were to do it, it would give me the most motivation to start it. I assume you're talking about Malazan. Well, one day. One day. It's like someone's trying to shove an encyclopedia into your brain while screaming cool lore at you. And so when I do Malazan, I am 100% ordering the hardcover and reading it physically, because I think if I try to listen to it, or maybe even if I try to just read the Kindle edition, my brain probably isn't going to process all the names and stuff as thoroughly as I know that I'm going to need it to. So, let's see. Wish I could read that fast. Is that fast? How fast? As fast as what? Just read Ender's Shadow last night. Wait, whoa, hang on, go back up. Malazan has 300,000 years worth of history. It's like the Silmarillion. Just read Ender's Shadow last night. I love that book. It's really good. It might be even better than Ender's Game, but the only problem is you have to read Ender's Game first for it to work. So I'm not sure I can actually say that it is better. Or, yeah, anyway, yeah, you gotta read Ender's Game first. Let's see. Do you like to use ebooks at all or prefer the hard copy? Yeah, I love ebooks because, so what I do, as I was telling you guys earlier, all 4 of these shelves right here, these are the books we've read for the podcast. I always get the hard copy. I don't, this is, here's a little more insight into me than you cared to get, but I don't trust that my electronic media is going to be there for me. So I'm happy to use it while I have it, but like, I don't know if you guys remember a few years ago when Apple's iTunes agreement did this thing where, people clicked, they agreed to the terms of service, and there was something in there that said that you authorize Apple to go retrieve artwork and consolidate your library. And basically what you're doing by saying I agree is you're giving Apple's AI permission to go into your hard drive and read your music files And what it was doing is like people had these massive libraries of rare songs, bootleg copies and whatnot, all electronically stored on their computer. And so it would say like, maybe it was Pearl Jam, Jeremy live at this concert in 1998, and they, so they had this recording, but all that iTunes saw was, oh, it's Pearl Jam, Jeremy, and so they would erase that file and replace it with their copy of it, which was just the studio album version, and so people lost everything. Not a ton of people, but some people lost everything, and it was just kind of an indication of like, you never know what's going to happen with that sort of thing, or what happens when, in your terms of service for, like when you buy an electronic movie off of Amazon or something like that, there's a little line in there that says like, this is yours as long as we allow you to have it. But just because you bought a copy doesn't mean that you have the rights to it. And so if we revoke it, you can no longer stream that. So you'd have to like save a copy somewhere on your own hard drive. So I don't trust electronic media in the long run. But that being said, I use it a lot because with my physical copies behind me, a lot of them are notated, especially from the early days of the podcast. But now I've found that with the ebook version, I read a lot on my Kindle app on my phone, and that's a great place to take notes and to see them really quickly. And so I'm doing a guest appearance on Sunday on Inking Out Loud with Drew McCaffrey. I met Drew at JordanCon this year. And he does a podcast called Inking Out Loud, and they're talking about the Wheel of Time. And so they invited me to come on and talk about the Dragon Reborn. So I did one episode with them last week. I'll do another one this week, and it's been awesome where, like, look, I don't have time to reread the book, but I just go through my Kindle edition. There's all my notes. So it's great for note-taking so that I can remind myself of that stuff. Let's see. I like the hard books, but can't beat the ease of having a ton of books to read. Where'd it go? At any time. Yeah, I prefer my physical collection. I'll tell you what, it's harder for me to get people to help me move because they have to move all these. Just send them a check in the old school Todd style. Oh, that's actually true. Was that Josh that was saying that? You wish you could just support the blue team, Josh Harkey? If you want to do that, we do have it set up. You can do one-time donations, I guess you'd call it, support for the show. And so the legendariumpodcast@gmail.com is what we use for like PayPal and what's the one, Venmo. So we have both of those if people want to give one-time donations. Really ought to put those on the site, but I struggle sometimes feeling, I don't want to ever feel too mercenary about the podcast. It's really nice to have the support, and I want the support, the financial support, but that's not why we do this. And so it's always hard for me to really hit that hard and like, please, people, give us lots of money. Like, it's not really quite what it's about. Let's see. Oh gosh, you guys are too engaging, and it's hard for me to quit the stream because you have so much to say. Speed reading. Let's see, if you hit a brick wall hard enough with your body, eventually the wall will come down. I don't know what that means. Speed reading is kind of my default. Sometimes I wish I could slow it down because I miss things sometimes. So I usually have to read books 2 or more times to really get everything. Yeah, I can see that. Growing up with Jordan, I trained myself to skim things that aren't dialogue. Maybe that's part of why I was so burned out by the end of Wheel of Time, is because I didn't do that. I read every single word carefully and with intent. And so it was exhausting by the end. Bean is a more compelling character, I'd say, for sure. Bean, maybe. It could be a thing like I was talking about at the very beginning of this stream, where with Elantris, it's not about character development. It's about a character being put through a progressive series of situations where you see how that character reacts, and it's not necessarily about how they change. Maybe that's more along the Ender lines, and then Bean is more about the character growth that he goes through. Although I think Ender gets plenty of character development, if I'm being honest. Let's see. John, yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay, good. You said it the way that it's actually officially supposed to be said. You own a license to digital media, not the media itself. 10,000 books? What? What, Josh? You have your own virtual library. That's awesome. I rejected your Venmo? I didn't reject your Venmo. Maybe Venmo rejected your Venmo. I didn't reject any Venmo. Tell me more about that. If you wanna email me, that same one, the legendariumpodcast@gmail.com. If you're having trouble with that, I'm happy to help you figure it out. Obviously. Gardens of the Moon. Okay. First time through Mistborn, ignored so much of the setting. Yeah, and that's the best part. Well, it's one of the best parts about Mistborn. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and call it there. Like I said, if any of you are having trouble with anything, whether it's Venmo or whether it's getting a certain episode or whatever, you're always welcome to email. The legendariumpodcast@gmail.com is a good one. There's also Craig at thelegendariumpodcast.com. That works just as well. So yeah, hit me up there. Sean, you just popped in to say goodnight. Did you just start, or have you been lurking this whole time? All right, so yeah, if you guys are enjoying these, then maybe I'll do one again later this weekend. I'll see what my time looks like, maybe Sunday night. Send Craig your relationship. Ryan and I were joking about this the other night. It would be so much fun to do an advice podcast like Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew used to do, and I would be probably the Adam Carolla character. That would be hilarious. But please don't send your relationship problems unless... No, it's probably just not a good idea to send them. Okay, so thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all the interaction. John, I actually can help you set up your 401k. I worked for 4 years in the financial sector, so probably still don't ask me to do that nowadays. Monday, let's see. Oh gosh, I'm trying to... Okay, you know what? I'm just going to cut it off there. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate all of you. A new episode is coming up on Monday. It's Blue Team. God Emperor of Dune Part 2. So that's coming up on Monday. Look forward to that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys